It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
With everything that's been going on, we know many of you have questions about the stock market, how your portfolio's doing, and that's where we start on Watts on Wealth. I'm your host, Ralph Hipp, and if you're joining us as a new listener, welcome. Today, you'll hear a lot about Barry's 6 steps to retirement confidence, how it could help you get some answers. We'll probably answer some of your questions on the show today, and you can always reach out to Barry Watts and the team, the Ozarks team at the Wealthcare Corporation. Their number is 417-200-3500. Find them online at wattswealth.com. Barry, welcome into the show. Good to hear you, buddy.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back with you, Ralph.
Well, we've all been caught off guard at some point in our lives, kind of a weird, terrible feeling. You feel like that deer in the headlights. Everything just hits you all at once and you feel paralyzed. We call it analysis paralysis. And Barry, to start the show, how does that impact people who need to make decisions about their retirement?
Well, the point is, I think that you do need to make decisions. And I've got to tell you, of course, I do this every day, and so I can see it very clearly and I understand it very well. But as I'm explaining to a client the steps they need to take and the things they need to do to position themselves well for the highest probability of having a great retirement, it's really a miserable process to watch them struggle as they try to analyze something that they really don't even understand. And often what they'll say is something like, well, I want to think about that. Okay, I think that's absolutely great. I think you should think about that. In fact, I think we should think about it together. So what specifically would you like to think about? And they usually don't have an answer because they don't know how to think about it. A friend of mine who is a business coach says, the problem isn't the problem. The problem is you don't know how to think about the problem. And so, when people are struggling with this paralysis by analysis, I think it's often because they don't know how to think about the problem. And so I would suggest that the way you deal with this is you analyze your retirement plan just one step at a time. Does this step make sense? Is this step right? And if it is, check it off. Now, we've dealt with that, so let's move on to the next step. Otherwise, you'll be locked into your misery for the rest of your life, and you'll never get ahead in planning the retirement of your dreams.
Some people, Barry, might put off planning because they just don't know what the process is like or how hard that might be. Can you tell me about your office there at Watts on Wealth and what potential clients could expect when they come in to meet with you and your team, probably for the very first time?
Well, I'd be happy to tell you that, Watts on Wealth is the name of our show, but our company is actually the Wealthcare Corporation. And our Springfield office is located near Battlefield and 65 on Ingram Mill. That's about halfway between Second Baptist Church, the big white church that's down there on Battlefield, and Glendale High School, if you know where that is. So right between those two and the curve in the road is where you'll find our office. And when you come to our office, you'll be greeted warmly by our staff and usually offered something to drink, coffee or tea or soda or water, something like that, and invited to just relax while you wait. And then they will escort you into one of the conference rooms. Now, you'll either be going to the Madison conference room or the Sydney conference room. And the Madison conference room is the big one because that's the room that's named after my biggest daughter. And the Sydney conference room is the smaller room. It's where I usually work. And that's the one that's named after my youngest, or at the time, littlest daughter. They're, of course, both grown up today. And in those conference rooms, they both got the audiovisual equipment and a whiteboard because what I really do, Ralph, is teach. I teach people how to think about money, how to think about taxes, how to think about investments, how to think about retirement. And then as we learn about each of these concepts, well, then you're invited to ask questions because you learn by asking questions, and we just peel back the layers of the onion and try to help people understand to the level that they want to understand. Some people want to know everything, and some people are like, look, just give me the broad idea. So at whatever level you want to understand, then we want to meet you there so that your retirement plan can work to the best for your benefit.
Absolutely. So Highway 65 and Battlefield Road is where you'll find them at the Wealthcare Corporation. Well, you've described the rooms, Barry, named after your grown-up children. Can you tell us more about your team members?
Well, I would be happy to. In our Springfield office, there are 10 people at the moment, probably going to 12 or 13. within just a few weeks. And we're organized by specialty. Now, there are three of us who are primarily retirement advisors, but we've all got subspecialties, things that we have additional expertise in. For example, my additional expertise is in the area of tax strategy, not tax return filling in the forms. That's not what we do. We leave that to a CPA who's in our office. But the strategies that a business owner or a retiree may need to implement in order to make their taxes as low as possible. And then Scott's specialty is estate planning. Before he came to us, he actually worked for an estate planning firm. And so he's good at being able to sit down with people and explain out the details of how their trust works and how their will works and how they fund those. A lot of times people bring to us documents that have been prepared by some law firm somewhere, but the actual documents have never been funded. And so Scott's able to kind of separate off the Latin, because, you know, lawyers love to talk in Latin, and just put it in plain English and explain to them what they've got and help them to understand how it works and can work best for them. And then we've got a young fellow by the name of Matt. Matt's specialty is Medicare planning. He's kind of the expert on all things Medicare. And so as people have questions that come up, then Matt steps in to deal with their Medicare issues. So those are the subspecialties that we've got, in addition to a CPA who used to work for the IRS. So he knows all the IRS's tricks, and he knows what's important to the IRS and what's not important to them. And, you know, the IRS always intimidates people. Everybody's afraid when the IRS shows up. Well, our guy's not, because he was the IRS. He knows exactly how that works. And so Phil, our CPA, helps people to do things as simple as preparing their tax return, or as complex as working out problems that may have arisen with the IRS. He is a problem resolution specialist. And then we've got a team of support staff who are the people who move the mountains of paper to support the planners as they design your retirement and reduce your taxes and protect your assets against market risk and design a plan for long-term care and get your estate in order. So all of those support folks are the ones who are preparing the files and the paperwork to make that happen. And all of this really planning work we do, Ralph, requires execution, or maybe a better way to say it is a blueprint requires a builder. And so some of our staff are the people with the hammers and the saws and the chisels and the levels, and they build your financial house that you and I have designed together to meet your personal retirement specifications.
Yes.
Then they build that house related to how much income you need or want each month, how much risk you're willing to tolerate, and how much you may have already been tolerating and you don't know about it because it's embedded in your investments. And then even with regard to the legacy you want to leave, if you want to leave a legacy, and if you don't, then that goes back to income. Well, how much more would you like to spend each year of your retirement life? So in our company, you don't just get one person. You get a whole team of us coming to your situation to address each of your unique issues according to our individual areas of expertise.
Well, Barry, building the basic foundation of a retirement plan, one of those big parts of it is your 6 steps to retirement confidence. Can you explain the 6 steps to our listeners, and where do you begin on that process?
Well, I'd be happy to, Ralph. This is really the core of what we do, is the 6 steps to retirement confidence. And I want you to notice that it all is focused on confidence in retirement. Now, let me tell you why confidence is so dadgum important. People are afraid. Even confident people are afraid when they approach retirement because they're giving up the check that they've received for 40 years every 2 weeks. And now they're trading that for no check ever to be received apart from what they may have from Social Security or pensions. And so they realize that this is a pretty important step, a change that's being made, and it creates some fear inside of us. And what we want to do is mitigate that fear. Now, in order to do that, we have to think about what are the things that you're afraid of. Well, it all starts with the lower step. And I want you to imagine in your mind, Ralph, a staircase that's leading upwards toward confidence. The lowest step on that staircase is the issue of income. How much income do you need? How much income will you have? What are the sources of that income? And how much of your income is going to have to come out of your personal investments? And do you have enough so that you can have your income all the way to age 100? That is the first of the 6 steps to retirement confidence, income to age 100. And then the second step, now we've moved up the staircase, is tax-free or tax-minimized investments. You see, it's possible, Ralph, for some people to be in the 0% tax bracket and not have to pay any taxes. And automatically what I think happens in people's minds is they go, oh, well, those people must not have very much money or very much income. Nothing could be further from the truth. You can be very wealthy and you can receive hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in income, and that income come to you tax-free if you structure it properly. So we want to help people achieve tax-free income if they can. And if we can't get them tax-free income, because some people have their structure set up so that it's not possible to get it to tax-free, well, we want to get it to the lowest tax bracket possible, because taxes are going to go higher in the future. And when they do go higher, we don't want to go higher from 24% to 35 to 45 to 55%. No, we'd like to go higher from 10%, maybe up to 15%, and then to 20% if that's what we have to do. So the second step is the tax-free step. Now there's a third step in there, Ralph, and it is principal protection. There ought to be a portion of everyone's money that is 100% guaranteed protected. Nothing can destroy it. Negative stock markets can't impact it. And so we have helped clients to go through the process of figuring out how much of their money that they would like protected in that way. And then what are the tools that we can use to protect it, and which tool do they prefer to have used for them? And so some people will say, I want 50% protected and I want 50% that I'm willing to not have protected. And in that particular section, the second section that's not protected, well, then we want to be sure that we've optimized it so that instead of the ups and downs of the stock market, we have a little steadier ride across the waves rather than being caught up in a tumultuous economic storm. The third step is principal protection, and it leads us, Ralph, to the fourth step, which is long-term care and Medicare planning. Now, of course, Medicare planning happens for people as they turn age 65, and then every year after that, they have the opportunity to review their Medicare plans and be sure that they're set like they want them to. Long-term care, though, is really intimidating to people because most folks don't have long-term care protection and recognize that in the conventional sense that you can't afford long-term care protection. But that's not true if you know the secret steps and process to get around the problem. Because every day, in fact, I just did it this morning, every day in our practice, we're helping people to establish long-term care plans that will pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, not only if they have to go into a nursing type facility, but in their homes. If they want care in their home, they can get that care there, and all of it come to them tax-free. So really, what we've talked about up to this point, Ralph, has been a lot of de-risking. We took away the risk from the taxes. We took away the risk of the stock market in our principal protection step. We took away the risk of healthcare costs getting out of control in our long-term care and our Medicare step. And that really just leaves us one more step before we come to our summary. And the final step, step 5, is what we call legacy planning. Now, Ralph, most people refer to this and think about estate planning. Well, that's where you set up a will or a trust or whatever. It's the legal documents that helps you to move assets from you to your children, your heirs, your charities, wherever you want those assets to go. That indeed is estate planning. But we like to talk about legacy planning because there are some things that can't be measured in dollars. There are things that death can't take away and that money can't buy. Closely held values and beliefs and commitments that you have in your heart that more than anything you want to pass on to your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren who you'll probably never see. And the only way you can pass those things on is if you have done proper legacy planning. And so we think it's every bit as important, probably more important, that you focus on your legacy plan and how to transfer those values to subsequent generations as it is the money. The money will probably get there. But if you had to choose between transferring the values and transferring the money, most people say hands down, they want to transfer the values. So, Ralph, those are 5 of the 6 steps. Now, in each of those, there was a boogeyman. A problem that could arise. I could run out of money. I could have to pay too much tax. I could lose my principal in a rough stock market. I could lose my money to long-term care and have it bankrupt or devastate me. I could fail to plan my estate properly, and then the government has to get involved and take a piece of the money, ultimately, is the way it works. And so we kill all those boogeymen in each of these 5 steps and neutralize them, set them aside so they no longer are a problem. And now we're ready to just periodically, once a year or so, review those 5 steps in our 6th step, which is called strategy visits. Every year we meet with our clients for a strategy visit where we review their assets. We review the liquidity in their accounts. Do they have enough money to do everything they wanted to do? We review their income. Is it too much? Not enough? Do they need an income increase? We look at the growth in their accounts, what's happened with their estate, because, sometimes you have an in-law that becomes an outlaw and you have to make a change in your estate plan. And then every year we review the taxes. At the completion of this, Ralph, what you've achieved is a sense of confidence. I've dealt with everything related to retirement, all the steps that I need to take, financially speaking. And now I can sit back and relax with a sense of confidence that my retirement is in order and that I'm going to have what I need to take care of me for the rest of my life. That's a long way to explain it, but that is the 6 steps to retirement confidence.
As I said, the basic foundation and the pillars that Barry Watts goes by at the Wealth Care Corporation. So if you'd like Barry to put all that for you, get you on the staircase there, his number is 417-200-3500, the phone number to reach Barry Watts at the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry, we're going to take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. You are listening to Watts on Wealth, and we'll be right back.
We all want the freedom to do the things that make us happy, especially in retirement. To get help planning for a future in retirement, give Barry a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. More Watts on Wealth coming up.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at Wealth Care at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at Wealth Care today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
You're listening to Watts on Wealth with Barry Watts of WealthCare. If you have questions about what you heard on the show today, you can give Barry and his team a call at 417-200-3500.
Sure glad you're with us. This is the Watts on Wealth radio show. I'm Ralph Hipp along with J. Barry Watts, the main wealth creator at the Wealth Care Corporation right there at Highway 65 and Battlefield Road. Barry, you've just been over those 6 steps to retirement confidence, and rather than pushing somebody toward a certain product right away, you take that approach of the steps. Can you explain how this is a much better approach?
Well, Ralph, it's the idea that someone would be pushed toward a product is kind of ridiculous. What that means is they're dealing with a salesperson. Now, sometimes some salesmanship is involved in helping people to do the right thing for themselves, but the right thing is never oriented toward you must buy a particular product or invest in a particular product. And when you see that happen and you feel like somebody's pushing a product, if you look deep enough, it's probably because there's a commission involved. Because the conversation should never be about the product. The conversation is about you and what you envision for your retirement. And then using the appropriate tools. And there may indeed at that point be a product involved sometimes, but you look at those tools and see if you want to use those tools and do those tools fit your needs. And if they do, then we use those tools to help you achieve what you want. But the conversation should never be tool centric. You know, you don't walk in the garage, look at all the tools on the wall, and then see a wrench and say, all right, the problem with my car is a nut that's loose. That's not the way you do it. You drive your car into the garage with whatever the problem is. You tell the mechanic what the problem is, and then he goes and gets a tool that helps him to deal with the problem. So never get your tools or your products ahead of what it is that you need and are trying to accomplish.
Right. Barry, really about 70% of us don't have any written financial plan at all. And people who don't have a plan, they're a lot less confident about their future. They don't know where they're going with all this. And do I have boxes of documents I need to put in to call that a retirement plan? Without all the pillars that we're talking about today, the retirement seems pretty wobbly, doesn't it?
Well, it is wobbly, Ralph. And what's wobbly is their emotions, I think, because they haven't cleared it up. So they don't know how to think. So they don't have confidence. And the only way that I know to resolve that is you have to have a written plan put in order. And that doesn't mean you get a 6-inch stack of paper. That's not the point. It means instead that you have a plan for how you're going to get your income. It's usually just on one sheet of paper. You have a plan for how you're going to deal with your taxes. You have a plan for how you're going to protect your investments. You have a plan for long-term care and Medicare and a plan for your legacy. And so if you don't have those kinds of plans that are in the 6 steps, then you don't have what you need. And if that's the case, I want to invite you to call us, because what we do at the Wealth Care Corporation is we help people banish the uncertainty so that they can experience confidence in their retirement. And the first place that you need confidence is income. And here's something for you to think about. How much income are you going to need in retirement? People they stumble all over that question. Oh my goodness, I just don't know. Well, okay, stop. Think about it a minute. How much income do you have right now? Well, I just don't know. Okay, well, let's get your checkbook out. Let's look at your checkbook. How much is deposited into your account when you get paid? I usually get $2,000 per pay period. Okay. How many pay periods do you have in a year? Well, if you're paid once a month, you get paid 12 times. Twice a month, you get paid 24 times. If you're paid every 2 weeks, you get paid 26 times. So we can take how much is deposited into your account, multiply it by the times you're paid. And now we kind of know how much income you have coming in right now. We can do the same thing for your spouse. So there's your family income. Now, here's the question. Are you spending all of that, or are you still saving some of that money? And now we're beginning to zero in on what it costs you to live each month. So there's a first way that we're kind of able to help people figure out what it costs to live each month. And then look at the sources of income you're going to have in retirement. You're going to have Social Security, hopefully. You're going to have a pension, maybe in some cases. And other than Social Security and a pension, unless you've got a fleet of rental houses, or you're a trust fund baby, or you have an oil well in your backyard that sends you a check every year, or you're John Grisham and you've written a bunch of mysteries and you get the royalties off of all those book sales or something like that, you're going to have to pay for the rest of your retirement out of what you have saved up in your retirement savings account. And so now we need to look at it and talk about, well, is your retirement savings account safe, or is it at risk? And if it's at risk, how much risk does it have in it? And are you comfortable with that? Or do you need to securitize some part of that? And if you do, how do you do that? What are your options? So ultimately, Ralph, our goal is this. We want to help you maintain your standard of living in retirement, even as costs keep rising. And the only way we can do that is with a written retirement income plan. It's an analysis that we do for clients that we don't charge for. There's no obligation for it. And let me tell you why. It's not because it doesn't cost us to be in business. It does. I mean, after all, our radio host, Ralph Hipp, we have to pay him the big bucks to get him to be the host of the show.
That's right.
What's the laughter there? I don't know. I see those checks go out.
Serious.
You are getting them, aren't you?
Yeah. Get paid tomorrow. That direct deposit tomorrow. I love it.
Well,
there you go.
There's no obligation. We don't charge for this first round of conversation, because we don't know whether or not we can help a person or not. Now, we do ask for a couple of things. First of all, you have to have saved in your retirement, at least $250,000, because for less than that, our tools just don't work. There's not a lot of ways for us to help you. But if you've saved more than $250,000, then you call us at the Wealth Care Corporation. Just pick up the phone and dial 417-200-3500 and tell them, I heard you're on the radio. I want a retirement income analysis. And we'll start that process of helping you analyze where you're at, where you're trying to go. And we'll show you a process that hopefully will help you keep from outliving your money. Just dial 417-200-3500. That's the number to remember.
It sure is. So take advantage of all the special offers from Barry Watts and the Wealth Care Corporation and their team, making sure that you won't run out of money. And there's a possibility you could boost your returns over time. So Barry's number is 417-200-3500 all around the Ozarks. A lot of us, Barry, we're creatures of habit. We have our certain order at our favorite restaurant. I remember you told me, how do you find the best restaurants around Springfield? Look for the crowd. Where's everybody going? We take our coffee a certain way. I like a little bit of half and half and some sweetener, just this much sweetener, this much cream every time. I don't change the routine. We also financially, Barry, we don't like to switch our banks or accountants or CPAs or switch our doctors because we like the way that things are being done. But if you're getting close to retirement, you should probably consider changing things up. So why is it important, Barry, to break out of our routine when it comes to planning for retirement? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, saving for retirement is a far different activity than spending in retirement. And the actions you take to help you save and accumulate are very different from the actions you take to start distributing your nest egg in a way that it will last you until you're 100 years old. Or I like to say it this way, what gets you to retirement will not get you through retirement.
Right.
You have to use a different strategic approach. And most people, they spent 40 years saving for retirement. They know how to do that. But it's the first time they've ever retired, and they don't know how to enter that phase of life in most cases. And that's why they're not confident. And so sometimes they just keep on working because they don't have the confidence they need.
Yeah. Tell us more, Barry, about all the things that change with our savings when we get into those retirement years. How is that altered?
Well, first of all, you're no longer adding to your account. You're taking away from your account. It's no longer about growing. It's now about creating income from what you've grown. I grew up on a dairy farm down in Stone County on the Arkansas line. And, there was a period of growth there because we would grow that heifer calf from a baby all the way up and grow her and grow her and grow her and grow her. And then one day it's no longer about growing her, but it's about creating income from her by milking her. And so we put her in the milking stream, and now we're taking milk out that we sell every day to the public. And so it's the same thing with your retirement. You spend all these years growing, but there's a time when you're done growing and it's time to start milking the retirement cow. And that withdrawal process hopefully does not erode your nest egg. It shouldn't if it's done properly, and we help clients to do it in the most proper way possible.
Great. Well, you're listening to the esteemed J. Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation, probably listening to our program for the very first time, and we're glad you are. Barry's phone number is 417-200-3500 all around the Ozarks. Barry, we're already halftime of our show, and we'll take a little break and be back with more of our conversation right after this. So don't go away. More with Barry Watts, and this is your host, Ralph Hipp. We will return right after this break.
We all want the freedom to do the things that make us happy, especially in retirement. To get help planning for a future in retirement, give Barry a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. More Watts on Wealth coming up.
New feature to the show, it's called the Social Security Question of the Day. When to take Social Security is always a question when you're dealing with people who are retired around the Ozarks. Of course, you can take Social Security as early as 62 or at the full retirement age, or even wait till you're 70, let that max out a little bit. So, Barry, our question is, why delay claiming Social Security if the average person would get the same from Social Security regardless of when they claim it?
Well, the answer's in your question, Ralph. If the average person would get the same, no, you don't get the same. You see, here's the way Social Security works. Your Social Security benefit is determined by what is called your full retirement age, FRA. And for people born in 1960 or after, the FRA is 67. When you and I were growing up, Ralph, you may remember everybody got Social Security kind of at age 65.
Sure.
So 67 is the new 65. Everybody gets Social Security at 67 if they're born after 1960. And so if you can, however, claim as early as age 62 if you wanted to. Now, if you do that, you're going to lose about 30% of your monthly benefits if you start claiming at 62. So stop and think about it for a moment. Well, if I'm losing 30% of my benefit, why would I do that? I think the only reason you would do that is because you're planning to die early. And so you want to get started getting as much as you can from Social Security. But most people are probably going to want to wait until full retirement age, which is, again, 67 for folks born after 1960. But here's the kicker. If you wait until you're 70, your benefit will increase by 8% every year between age 67 and 70. So how many years are there? I went to school down at Galena. I have to do it the hard way and get my fingers up here and count them out. Let's see, there's to 68 and to 69 and to 70. It's 3 years, Ralph, times 8%. 3 8s are 24. So you're going to have approximately 24% more money in your monthly check if you wait until you're 70 years old to claim instead of claiming at full retirement age. Now, the reason you might want to consider doing this is because by delaying until you're 70, you are permanently locking in a higher benefit. So if you're going to live long to 100 years old or so, well, then you're going to get more money out of Social Security by waiting and increasing the amount of your check. The other thing that I think is so significant is you have to realize that when you die, your spouse will be able to access your benefits. So if your check is more than their check, then they're going to give up their check and they're going to start taking your Social Security check. And if you have waited until age 70 to claim, well, then you are handing over a larger Social Security check to them. So, Ralph, that's how we kind of disabuse the public of having the wrong idea about Social Security income, and hopefully that clarified how the claiming strategies work and helps people think a little more clearly about which strategy that maybe they ought to use.
Very good, sir. And as we're getting into 2024, the Barry Watts radio program, glad to have you along. And on our program each week, we'll have a Social Security question of the day for you. Well, back to our other questions, Barry, when they come to see you and the team at Highway 65 and Battlefield Road talking about retirement. What kinds of questions do you ask those possible new clients to help them with that transition from their working years to their retirement years? What's that process?
Well, it might surprise you. You may think everything starts with money. No. We'll talk about money eventually. But one of the first questions I ask them is this. I say, do you know who Norman Rockwell is? And sometimes they don't know, but also sometimes, most often, they do know who Norman Rockwell is, the great painter from Stockbridge, Massachusetts, who painted all those iconic Americana 50s paintings of like the turkey being served at the dinner table with all the family gathered around kind of things. I say, well, we're going to hire old Norman Rockwell. Now, that's kind of hard because, Norman's dead, but we're going to bring him back from death to life. And we're going to hire Norman Rockwell and we're going to have him paint a picture of everything that you want in retirement. And here's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to tell me what we're going to tell old Norman to be sure and put in the painting. It's really interesting because usually people can play this game. Sometimes they stumble and can't. And the reason I ask them to think about it in Norman Rockwell terms is if you just ask, so what do you want in retirement? Well, they won't give you an answer. But if you say, think about Norman Rockwell, what are you going to paint? Then sometimes they can start. The best answer I think I've ever gotten was, my suitcase is packed and by the door. Okay, that told us this guy looks forward to traveling in retirement. And of course, the next question was, well, where are you going on these trips? Let's have Norman paint that in. And maybe it's a seascape, or maybe it's the mountains, or maybe it's the big city, or maybe it almost always there's grandchildren involved in these paintings. And sometimes there's tennis, and sometimes there's the desert Southwest because they want to go somewhere that's warm. Oftentimes there's a fish or a fishing boat, things like that. These are things that people have in their Norman Rockwell-esque paintings. So what we try to do is use that question to help people think about what they really want to receive and experience and live in the midst of retirement. And then after they've done a good job at that, I'll come back and I'll ask this question. I'll say, suppose we're sitting here 3 years from today having a conversation very much like this. What has to have happened in your life financially in order for you to feel satisfied with the progress that you've made? Well, they think in a moment. But people will come up with, 3 years from now, I have to know that my income is secure. 3 years from now, I'd like to have my home remodel complete. 3 years from now, I'd like to have my cancer treatment over. Whatever the issues are, they lay all those out. So now we kind of know what the benchmark for success is. If we can do these things, these three things, and if we can kind of start fulfilling the Norman Rockwell picture, we have a successful retirement started. And then it comes to numbers, because I'll always ask this question: what's your sitting on the porch number? People are like, what? I don't understand. Sitting on the porch. I'm retired. What do you do all day? I sit on the porch. Well, I don't want to sit on the porch. Oh, I get that. But if you did just want to sit on the porch and do nothing all day, how much money do you need to have deposited into your bank account each month in order to allow you to just sit on the porch? How much do you need to pay your mortgage if you have one, your rent if you're renting, your utilities, your taxes, the person who mows your yard, your grocery bill, your insurance for your car? How much does it take to keep the car on the road? All these kind of things. What's your sitting on the porch number? Because that becomes the number that we solve for in determining whether or not we've built a retirement income plan that will last you all the way to age 100.
That's right. So, hey, give Barry a call. And once again, as you're listening to our show, said, I want to talk to Barry too and get all this. Give him my sitting on the porch number and talk about more complicated things. That's 417-200-3500. Barry, are people around Springfield, are they generally surprised you don't want to start by talking over their account balances and their investment portfolio right away? Is that something you do later? You don't start out with that?
Well, no, I don't start out with that, because that's not the question. There's a process to be followed, and the process begins with you, not with your money. And the you part of the process is, what is it that you want to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish in retirement? And then the money is just the means to accomplish those things. And so we have to get out of you what it is that you want to accomplish first. And then we'll figure out, do we have enough money to do those things? If you start with the money, you miss the whole point. It's not about the money. I want to retire and have money. Well, why would you want to retire and have money? Imagine yourself locked in a room at age 80, a room full of nothing but money, but no friends, no activity, no life. Really?
Right.
That's dumb. What do you want in retirement?
Not fun.
And then, do we have enough money to fund it? Money is just the fuel that takes your retirement vehicle where you want it to go.
Barry, when you do talk to them about themselves, first of all, what goes into an income plan for their retirement? And you said it's more than just having a budget, right? And it's like, where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? More than just having a budget.
Well, we start with that sitting on the porch number. How much money do you need deposited into your account each month to fulfill your budgetary needs? But then we say, okay, tell me about your cars. Will you pay for a car out of that sitting on the porch number? Oh, no, I'll need some extra car money. Okay. How often do you trade cars? Well, every 5 years. Okay. When you trade cars, what does it cost? Well, it costs about $60,000. Okay. So now we have to build in an additional expense of about $60,000 every 5 years. And then we talk about travel. Do you want to travel? And most people do. And how often are you going to travel? I'm going to take one big trip a year. What's it going to cost? It's going to cost $15,000. I'm going to Europe. So let's build $15,000 a year into your expense on top of your sitting on the porch number. And then I always like to talk about teeth and hearing aids, because one of the reasons people show up in the office and say, hey, I need some money, is their teeth all went bad at once and they've got a $10,000 dental bill. Or maybe they can't hear what you say and they've got a $7,000 hearing aid bill, and every 5 or 6 years that's going to circle around again. So we build in the ability to spend for hearing aids, to spend for teeth, to spend for travel and for cars. And now we kind of know really what the bogey is, how much money we're going to need to spend. And then we back up and say, what are our sources of income? Social Security, pensions, rental houses if you have one, trust fund if you have one, any other source that sends you money every year. And from there, we can then look at your investments and say, okay, you've got all this money saved up in these investment accounts. Which ones are you going to use to provide you with income? And now we can start building out your retirement income plan from there. So that's how we begin preparing an income analysis for a client who wants one.
Well, we mentioned earlier, Barry, when you build your financial house, you want that strong foundation and have the pillars come up and hold up from the floor to the roof. People who don't have a firm financial house, people without a plan, they're not very confident. Without those pillars of the foundation, the retirement's a little shaky. And how do you firm that up for them?
Well, people are often just worried that they haven't saved enough. And the only way to know whether you have saved enough or not is to build a retirement income plan. Unless you have a written out retirement plan, there's just no way to figure that out. So you can stand there and wring your hands and worry and fret and sweat and keep on going to work because you don't know for sure. Or you can get the retirement income plan prepared for you. And it's one of the things that we do as a part of our 6 steps to retirement confidence. So for people who don't have that and haven't pursued that, I just want you to understand that this is something that we provide for anyone who has at least $250,000 saved for retirement. We will do a complimentary retirement income analysis, and there's no obligation to that. You simply need to have saved at least $250,000 for retirement, and we'll sit down with you and spend an hour or so talking about your situation and kind of mapping out what your income looks like and analyzing whether you have enough to get where it is that you want to go. Now, Ralph, this isn't going to make anybody rich. That's not the objective. The objective is just to see, can we stretch the money to make it all the way to life expectancy, which we default and say is age 100. And we're happy to help with that if you'll just call us at the Wealth Care Corporation. Our number is 417-200-3500, 417-200-3500, or you can visit our website if you'd like, Watts Wealth. That's WATTS Wealth, wattswealth.com. And you can contact us from there, and there's some special tools you can download and so forth.
Yeah, great. Well, the Wealth Care Corporation at 65 and Battlefield Road is a personal retirement planning firm headquartered right here in the Ozarks. And you're listening to Watts on Wealth, the radio home of expert retirement plan designer J. Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry, we're almost to the final part of our show here. Glad to have our new listeners along. We'll take a break and return and discuss, do you have any junk in a junk drawer? And we'll continue our conversation about your finances and pick it up from there right after this.
We all want the freedom to do the things that make us happy, especially in retirement. To get help planning for a future in retirement, give Barry a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. More Watts on Wealth coming up.
According to the U.S. debt clock, in the time you hear this commercial, our nation's debt will go up by $1.5 million. That's more than $2 billion a day. Right now, our debt is over $31 trillion and climbing fast. The question is, how do we pay it off? One of the most likely answers is increasing taxes. Now think about your retirement accounts. Do you want to pay taxes on some of that money now when rates are historically low, or later when rates are potentially higher? Whether you should pay taxes now or in retirement depends on a lot of things. Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare know what to look for. Barry can help you create a plan so your retirement is as tax efficient as possible. Call 417-200-3500 to set up a tax strategy session with Barry Watts and the WealthCare team. That's 417-200-3500. When taxes go up, will you be ready? Call now, 417-200-3500.
Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
I'm your host, Ralph Hipp. We all have that one drawer in our house. We call it the old junk drawer. Most of the time, you'll find it in the kitchen. And you know what you'll find in there? You got those batteries rumbling around, rubber bands or power cords to something you don't know what it hooks up to, random bits and pieces that at one time or another did seem important enough to keep, but you really need a reorganization. So, Barry, we're going to apply this to our financial planning. How many clients around the Ozarks come to you thinking they have a plan, but what they really have is that financial junk drawer that really needs your help in being organized?
Oh, well, Ralph, before I answer that, I'm having a traumatic experience in my own mind just thinking about the junk drawer. You know, when you and I were kids, The junk drawer had a screwdriver in it, and it maybe had an electric cord to a plug-in coffee pot that unplugged on both ends. And that was about all. But today we've got all these electronics and they all come with a power cord. And then you never know which power cord went with which piece of electronics. They need to fix that. Somehow put a label on all those. It says, this is for your iPad and this is for your iPhone and this is for your Remarkable tablet and so forth.
Or a name on the plug of what product it went with.
That's the point.
Sony or something.
Helpful?
Yeah.
We should get rich figuring that out, Ralph. Junk drawer. Okay, we're going to solve the junk drawer problem. Yes, people have their finances a lot in the junk drawer, and it's not very well organized. And sometimes when we send people our initial document request, because the way you start working through the 6 steps to retirement is we send you a list and say, okay, here are the documents that we need. They start looking for those documents and they're like, oh my goodness, this was just so hard. You needed so many documents. Well, dude, it's your life. I don't really care whether you send me the documents or not. I'm trying to help you and you need to get this organized. And so it's really a chore for them, but it's the very necessary first step is to figure out where all your documents are. And fortunately, we will help you figure out what documents you need. And we send you a list of those things before you come in to see us.
I made mention earlier that, hey, Barry, here's my 3 boxes of papers. Here's my financial plan. That ain't it. What are the steps in getting our plan really organized so it works for us in retirement?
Well, I think really it's about answering 3 critical questions. The first question is, what do you want? It might be good for you to just go sit on the porch for a while with a cup of coffee in hand and just think, what do I want?
What do I really want?
And then the second step is, what do you have? What do you have? And then the third step is, what can we do with what you have to get you what you want? That's really what retirement planning is all about. And so if you can tell me what you want and you can show me what you have, I can help you with the planning to get what you want out of what you have.
And do you have another question in there that you ask these people?
No, Ralph, I don't, which is why I said there are 3 critical questions.
Yeah. Barry, let me shift gears here. And if we already have financial products like annuities or insurance policies, is it possible to make some changes on that and regarding the overall plan?
Well, sure. There are very few financial decisions that are irreversible. So, yeah, you can make changes if you already own an annuity or an insurance policy or something like that. In fact, just this morning, I was able to help a family replace an insurance policy that they had that was an old policy, not very well efficiently designed. And it's going to save them $2,000 a year in what they spend on insurance. And these days, $2,000 a year is a pretty significant amount. So you can always make changes and adjustments. In fact, you should be making changes and adjustments because the world around you is changing and adjusting, and you have to change and adjust to keep up with it.
Well, it sure is. So, Barry, do we overlook our taxes when we're putting retirement plans together, and how do they overlook what's out there?
Most folks never give the first thought to taxes until I bring them up. That's the number one thing I hear of people who come through classes I teach and so forth. They're like, oh my goodness, I hadn't even thought about this. It never occurred to me that this is going to be an issue. And so, yeah, people really haven't given it any thought along the way. But in fact, the truth, Ralph, is that your biggest expense in retirement is going to be taxes. And if you don't get taxes right, nothing else that we do in your retirement plan is going to matter. So let's be sure we get those taxes right.
Barry, if we've already been working with a financial professional, should we get a second opinion?
Well, I don't think a second opinion is ever a bad idea, but one way to figure out whether you need one is to just think about the questions that your financial professional has asked you and the things they have shown you and done for you. For example, have they showed you how to avoid taxes on Social Security? If they have, you probably have a pretty good financial advisor. But if they haven't, then maybe you need a second opinion. Have they talked with you about how to minimize retirement income taxes? Have they encouraged you to use LERP plans tax-free or Roth IRAs tax-free, and encouraged you to convert existing money that's in taxable IRA accounts to tax-free IRA accounts. If they have, you might have a good advisor. If they haven't, could be you need a second opinion. Here's a big one. Have they prepared a retirement income cash flow projection for every year of your retirement? So can you say, show me a year 73, when I'm 73 years old, what my retirement income will be? And if they haven't prepared a projection that shows you each year, then how can you retire with confidence it may be time for a second opinion? Have they showed you how to protect your principal from loss during a down market? Usually the answer is no. I haven't been shown how we do that. Well, do they protect you in a down market? Well, they say they do. Okay. So did you go down last year when the market went down? Yeah, I did. Okay. Then probably you need a second opinion because it sounds like they're not doing the work for you that you need. So I can't tell you, Ralph, whether you need a second opinion or not. I can just tell you we offer a lot of second opinions and people find it usually to be a pretty enlightening experience. But those questions that I just asked, those are some of the things for you to think about and whether or not your advisor is really digging into the issues that are going to impact you in retirement.
Right.
A lot of times I think what they're doing is just managing money. Because that's how they get paid is on the management of that money. And they're not asking the deeper questions that are really critically important to retirees and helping them have a successful retirement.
Well, it's been said, Barry, people in their 40s and 50s, if they're thinking ahead about saving money, putting stuff away, and that's good. And if you're ready for that first visit with Barry, or you want to tweak things and you want to feel more confident about your retirement and your plan, getting that second opinion, Barry's number is 417-200-3500 all around the Ozarks. And you can do your research, and wattswealth.com is Barry's website for the Wealth Care Corporation. Well, just imagine how fast your savings will shrink down if you don't have a strategy protecting your income from the volatility of the market or the skyrocketing cost of healthcare, higher taxes down the road. Barry, there are so many things that can eat away at what we put away.
Well, there is a lot at stake, Ralph. And so you have to be approaching this judiciously and with a full mind of what your options are and the strategies are and what you ought to think about. Because if you miss opportunities to maximize your savings, then that's free money that you just allowed to fritter out of your hands. Depending on how you select your Social Security claiming strategy, you could be walking away from tens of thousands of dollars in Social Security benefits. And you could be overpaying tremendously on taxes. We routinely see people that just common retirement folks, we're able to save them as much as $500,000 in lifetime taxes that they will pay in because we just show them how to pay the tax in a different way. So all of these things are threats to your financial well-being on top of healthcare costs and long-term care and things of that nature. And so don't let your financial mistakes compound and don't really facilitate any financial mistakes on that list. And so for the folks who are listening to the show today, here's what we want to do. We want to tell you that we will sit down with you for an hour and look at your financial situation and see if we can help you. I can't guarantee that we can, but we'll certainly be glad to take a look at your situation and talk about how we might potentially help you if you have at least $250,000 saved for retirement. The reason for that is because the tools and strategies and techniques we use require a little bit of money to work with and make them effective. All you've got to do to facilitate this is you just dial us at the Wealth Care Corporation by picking up the phone and punching in 417-200-3500 and tell the folks who answered, I heard you on the radio and I want a retirement income strategy, and we'll be happy to get you pointed in that direction. And we won't even charge you for that first visit.
Oh, great.
Because we don't know whether we can help you. Give us a call, 417-200-3500.
That's right. Hang on to that number. Barry, we've reached the end of our program, and it's always great to hear from you, bud, your Ozarks wisdom about our finances, and look forward to getting together with you again next time.
I'll look forward to it, Ralph. Thanks for being on the show with me today.
And thanks for joining us, friends, and see you next time for the Watts on Wealth radio show. Once again, Barry's number, 417-200-3500. Hope you can call him during this coming week. Have a good week, and join us again for the next program.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. and join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate, American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Our firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency and do not provide legal advice. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. This radio show is a paid placement.